welcome to the Footy with Mates, folks. Happy 20th of July. It's lovely to be here. I know we don't usually talk to AFL football players. We try and keep it cool around here, but sometimes there's a little Venn diagram where, because footy players are all, run around, have a Powerade. Not very cool, and this show's only cool people, like Matt Preston, our mate Mish, but sometimes there's a very small crossover in the Venn diagram of a cool football player, and when that happens, they're on immediately. So this guy's like, "Hey, I'm cool, let me on," and we're like, "Oh, I don't know," and then he showed us he had a Terry's t-shirt on, and so we had to have him. Please welcome the skipper of the Fremantle Football Club, a man who first-handedly destroyed my football club this year, and potentially they might tomorrow. Please welcome Alex Pearce.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad that you listened to my pleas to let me on. I didn't know this is the coolest podcast in town, so I thought I must be on.
Is that what's happening in Perth? Is it everyone's like, "Hey, before we go to the casino, let's all just sit down and listen to the Footy with Broden. Before we go to Northbridge, let's all." Is that what's happening over there?
Before we start fighting in Northbridge, we need to get ourselves amped up and listen to Broden.
That's right. Before we go to Fast Eddie's, which is verging on being shut for a decade now.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Congratulations on everything that's happening at Freo, Alex. It must feel fantastic. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. It's been a good year. Obviously, sort of contrast it to last year when we went in with high hopes, and last year sort of turned to shit, and it was all doom and gloom, and it was quite tough. And then this year, against sort of expectation, we've been able to string a few games together. Play some pretty good footy, so it's good. But I think, as we all know, it's the season at the moment is just on such a nice edge that I think we might be fifth at the moment, but
you could be 18th tomorrow.
That's it.
They could hand out the grand final to you next week. We don't know how this year's going to go. It's incredible. I guess Freo internally must have seen that this sort of was coming, this moment of where it all kind of starts, working, and there's some really great games start coming out. How long internally? How long have you seen this coming? This kind of this flick of the switch.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think every season I've gone into and every game I've gone into, I've always thought we're going to win and we're going to be premiers, and as you know, that hasn't happened yet in my career. So it's going into last season, as I said, everyone was pretty high on confidence. I thought, this might be the year, and then didn't go to plan. This off-season, pre-season, things were good. Guys were training well, but vibes are always high in the pre-season. So everyone was amped up. Everyone's running good time trials. Everyone's skin fobs are good. But if you ask everyone else around the competition around the country, so are they. So it's it is really hard to judge, because I did have a good feeling going in, and we spoke a lot about, as a playing group, what our expectations are, and setting no limitations. Yeah, we want to win a premiership this year, and you never know whether everyone believes that or not, and you try and convince everyone that that's what we're doing, because if you actually believe it, then when you get out there in big games, in big moments, you don't shy away, and you're expected to be there. You've already sort of done it a little bit. Yeah. At least that's how I try and sort of prepare mentally for things. So I guess I'm an optimist is what I'm saying. So I've always thought we were going to be great, but there was an extra feeling this pre-season, just with young players finding new levels, and
Can I ask, this is a very surface level, and we don't have to talk about footy and the details of it too much, because you're probably bored about it. But the thing that Tom and I, because we're not really that smart about footy, but we talk about it three times a week. and for every 8, if you don't talk about every club in thoughtful, nuanced detail, they go for you. And I would say we ranked last year the coolest club in the AFL, Freo, but now I'm starting to rank in my head the fan bases that get the most upset when you don't talk about them. And Freo is number one with a bullet. They are how dare you not talk about us? And the only thing we ever say, so my first question is don't know if they should have 2 ruckmen. And so I just want to ask you, about having 2 ruckmen and why it's a good thing and why it works at Freo.
Yeah, okay. Just the first one on the Freo fans getting upset. I reckon I can sort of understand that. I think when you live in Perth and you have to, the West Australian is your main paper that you read, and it's full of West Coast and Harley Reid, and West Coast sort of run the town, and Freo are like the little brother getting picked on for years and decades.
Yep.
They sort of build up this chip on your shoulder, and I can imagine that as soon as the Freo fans start to think that the likes of yourself aren't giving the team credit, then it's just bang, they're straight on. But to the footy question, the two ruckmen, it's been talked about a fair bit. Clearly,
just on our podcast alone, but we've got to put it to bed now.
Yeah, I just think footy can sometimes be overcomplicated, and you just try and get the best 18 players, 22 players out on the field, then you'll give yourself a pretty good chance.
Yeah.
And there's obviously limits to that. We can't have 22 ruckmen running around because that would be a nightmare.
Or would it be incredible?
Or would it? Yeah, something to think about later. But like Sean and Jacko are both like A grade or bordering on A grade players, and they've both been able to play well up forward and well in the ruck. I sort of hear the argument that Jacko plays so well when he's in the ruck, and when he goes up forward, like playing as a key forward is a bit of a harder position. I think probably the hardest position on the ground at times. So sometimes it's just not your day. The mids don't kick it to you. The ball's not coming down, and you just can't really do much. And you can have a great game. You can do everything you can, but statistically, and the commentators don't love you, don't rave about you. So I think sort of internally, we love what they do together, and they can both have their moments and stand up. But potentially that means that one of them doesn't dominate for the whole season or for a whole game in its entirety. But if we can have both of them having their moments, then that'll lead to us being a better team. And I'd rather have a great team than have, say, an All-Australian ruckman every year, but not have as good a team.
It's valued internally more so than it is like if they've both got 20 hit-outs, it doesn't really matter like what their Supercoach score is. Yeah.
I think there was a lot of talk after our game against Sydney, you're probably aware of, around Fife tagging Heaney. Jordan Clark got sort of tagged off the half back line, and commentators were going crazy. Like Fife, 2-time Brownlow medalist, sacrificing for the team. Jordan Clark running half back, like not to playing his normal role, sacrificing for the team. Freo are just this great team now. They're like, we didn't think this about them in the past, but now they're all just one, and they don't care who gets 30 touches. They care about winning. And it's like, well, yeah, like that's it. That's footy. Like We're not playing a game of tennis. Like you can't game of basketball where you just take over and can win a game. Like you need to sacrifice and play for the team.
We don't need to talk about my basketball games, Alex. That's fine. We all know I dominate. You talked about the Fife Heaney tag. That was described as the most beautiful one-on-one ever played in football. I think Fife on Heaney. It's 2 gorgeous men just going. You talked very briefly about living and playing in Perth. I'm curious, what's it like living and playing in Perth? Like, is it? I assume it's beach and sun and playing footy. Are you recognised everywhere? Is it like Melbourne?
It's interesting. I hear I've obviously only ever had playing in Perth. I grew up in a small town in Tasmania, and everyone recognised me then, but that was just because we all knew each other. I hear from a lot of players that have done both that you may get recognised in Melbourne, but no one really cares because footballers are everywhere, and it's just like,
there's 3 in here right now, actually, off camera. But yeah.
It's just sort of part and parcel. Whereas over here, there's only 2 teams. There's a lot more attention, I think, and like media scrutiny potentially just on these 2 teams, and then within the 2 teams, the top dozen players potentially. So. Yeah, it is interesting. Like, I don't know, I guess I tend to not go out too much. Like, that's probably part of the being an AFL captain. You don't go for midweek beers and go to the pub and sort of run into all the punters. But like you do get recognised, but it depends sort of where you are, and particularly with Freo fans, like they love a little bit of success and a little bit of taste of like some flag mantle action, and with that becomes this like swarm of support and adulation and love and all this kind of stuff, which is beautiful, but it is like it can be a lot of times.
Imagine, yeah.
And then when you have it the other way, it's you sort of notice that in the good times everyone sees you and knows you. So in the bad times they must be thinking and when you walk down the street. So it's a battle at times, but that's like, I'm not going to complain too much about it. We obviously have it pretty good, but it's just something you have to get used to, I guess, in terms of going out in public and dealing with some social anxiety at times.
With comedy, I can tell now when someone's walking towards me and they recognize me and are a fan. Like I can see it in their eyes, even with like you can kind of feel it before it even happens. When you're walking around Perth, can you feel that's a West Coast supporter who recognises me, and I can tell the difference between a fan, like a Fremantle fan who recognises me? Is it at that level? Can you feel it?
I tend to try and be really oblivious, and if I think that there's eyes, I just look the other way and just am happy for them to look, but not sort of I don't know, that might sound a bit arrogant, not engaged. But
yeah, sure.
Like when I have friends come over, they'll be like, lots of people look at you and recognise you. I'm like, well, I'd rather not know, and I don't know. So if I can just go in my own world a little bit, then it becomes easier. And like in day to day, like you're probably aware as well, like when people are at a pub full of beer, they're less likely to come up and say hello.
Yep.
They're just more likely to have a look and go, oh, there's such and such. Whereas if they're full of beer, they'll come up and give you their Christmas pud video. And,
that's right. You're getting that too. You do look like Zach a little bit, funnily enough. This is the worst pivot ever, but I wanted to talk about, just because this is coming out this week, we saw the St Kilda reserves player get banned for, I think, 6 weeks for homophobic slurs. And obviously we've seen the prevalence of it coming up so much this year and so many people getting the suspensions. Just as someone who is on the field, is this something you've encountered through your whole career, is something that comes up a lot? And have you noticed it move in the right direction, or what's it like out on the field with this?
I think footy is a bit of a representation of society. Mm-hmm. And I think the prevalence of the throwaway homophobic slurs that I just think growing up, like even in primary school, high school, throwing out homophobic, not slurs directed at people, but just as like, that was just language that was used and we didn't even know what it meant, to now understanding it and not using that language and trying to educate people when they do bring it up. But it is becoming less prevalent, I think, in just your general chats at the pub or around that. And I think it is becoming that way on the footy field as well, because people now have an understanding of what this language means, and it's not just a swear word that you say to let off some steam, or just an insult directed at someone which doesn't mean anything. There's actually a bit more to it. But I can speak for myself. I say this, I'm probably a deep-ish thinker and think about these things and what it sort of means and what it can do to people, and probably have a greater range of circle of friends, whereas football's made up of people from all different walks of life, and still people who live in sheltered existences, upbringings, and don't get those experiences. So I don't think the footy environment is perfect. I think it's far from perfect in terms of being sort of safe for sort of gay footballers to come out, which I guess is hard to say, because it'd make me really embarrassed to think that that's true. But it's just sort of, we've just still got some work to do. And I think you can't argue, I think, with society and the way it is and the things that you sort of see and hear that is still prevalent.
Well said, Ali. I liked what one of your coaches, Bob Murphy, said on Four Corners when he said that he would see it as a superpower for our team because it would endear you more so to your entire team and say that like we've got your back and we'll go up against the world. I thought it was a really lovely point that he made there. Just because we're on limited time, I'm going to pivot dramatically again. Tassie! So in the year 2028, in March, you'll be 32, Alex. So you'll probably still be at Freo kicking. You know, your arm will be better by then, and you'll be killing it. Do you have ambitions to come back and help build that team? As a Jack Jumper's scarf is behind you, and
shit. Yeah, like I'm clearly from the scarf and everyone that knows me, I'm a really passionate Tasmanian. Although I've been in Perth for 10 years and it is my home, Tassie will always be home. And particularly because I've been such a sport guy, like footy, cricket, basketball. Like have always followed Tassie teams even when I've moved, and the thought of having a Tassie football team is just so exciting. And to think what 12-year-old Alex would have thought to go and watch the Tassie Devils. Like I used to watch the Tassie Devils play in the VFL back when I was sort of primary school, maybe early high school days. I wore a Tassie Devils jersey and I like mini league Auskick stuff. So like, clearly it will be my team, but what I will be one of my teams. But depending on what like involvement that is, like, I'm not going to lie and say that there's no chance of it happening because that would just be talking out of my ass. So we'll just see where I'm at that time. Like I clearly love Freo and love my time here and just want success. So
you trade out Tame Impala for Luca Brasi. That'll be good.
Well, I think they've already signed on the dotted line, haven't they?
Exactly. That was all the main question. Your arm is okay. You're not far off, are you?
No, I should play this week.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Is that a scoop?
It sure is.
This comes out Saturday, but I might just say something. I reckon Pearce will play this week. Is that a waffle thing, or you'll go straight in? You're the skipper.
No, straight in. As long as I'm Pearce. The coach has referenced it. Maybe I'll have to work my way back, but I'm hoping he's joking. So.
He has a very serious face, and there's talks that maybe another skipper for your opponent, your rival team, if he got through training, might play as well. So it might be the return of two skippers.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah.
Can you lose? Is that all right?
Oh, it's going to be a pretty important game. Yeah. We might have to win.
No, but fair enough. All right, righto then. We'll see. Well, I do wish you the best, and you're an absolute gun for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. Tom, anything you want to say to Pearcey?
No, I just wanted to say as well how good Hayden Young is. He's been my highlight this year, I reckon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Him and Josh Tracy, I think, are the two that have really just gone crazy for us, which has been, very handy.
Guns. Thank you so much, mate. You can catch the Fremantle Dockers at fremantlefc.com.au or at Optus Stadium. Get your tickets. I'm just making Alex hasn't told me to say this. And you can buy their purple Guernseys at the shops. Thanks, Alex. Bounce that pill.